The Australian Financial Review.
My hubby's a builder and, like a lot of builders, pretty bad with the paperwork. And recently, with all the hype around AI platforms, I thought maybe I can use AI to help him.
Last week, The Fin's producer Mandy Coulin had an AI epiphany.
So instead of paying a software company, I had a crack at building an app which does invoicing and quoting, job hours, materials, tax, all the things he uses. And honestly, I'm just blown away that I could do it and how easy it was.
Mandy's not the only one who's rediscovered AI in recent weeks.
Software stocks have become ground zero for investors' anxiety over the possible disruption coming from AI.
That $300 billion was wiped off the value of software and data stocks on the US market last night.
The launch of a powerful new legal tool from AI giant Anthropic sparked a sell-off in technology stocks across the globe, as investors tried to pick which businesses were most at risk of becoming obsolete.
Australian company WiseTech Global is cutting close to 2,000 jobs as it shifts towards artificial intelligence.
The investor panic hit hard for some of Australia's most successful software companies. Shares in Atlassian are being pummeled, the IPO ambitions of Canva are now under a cloud, and WiseTech Global is cutting 2,000 jobs as part of what it calls an AI transformation.
So many investors, they thought AI disruption was a story for 2027 and 2028. And all of a sudden, it is a story for February 2026.
Welcome to The Fin. I'm Lisa Murray. This week, Chanticleer columnist James Thomson and technology editor Paul Smith on why financial markets are suddenly spooked, which businesses are most at risk from AI disruption, and whether the concern is overblown. It's Thursday, February 26. Hi, James. Hi, Paul. Thanks for coming back on the podcast.
Hey, Lisa.
Thanks for having us, Lisa.
James, you've been writing about this widespread sell-off of software-as-a-service companies following the release of the latest AI models. Some people are referring to it as a SaaSpocalypse and calling these companies AI roadkill. What's going on?
Well, there's a name for everything, Lisa, isn't there? But we're in the fourth year of a big rally on global share markets, and that rally really started in October 22, and it's been driven by big tech companies. So yes, the AI hyperscalers, as they're called, but also these software-as-a-service companies that have been so central to the tech rally. Over the last 12 to 18 months, we've had concerns about how the AI bubble is forming and how it might play out. But most of those concerns have been around how much is being spent on AI infrastructure, data centers and computer chips and all that sort of stuff, and whether that would drive good returns. But in the last 6 months or so, really accelerating in the last 4 weeks or so, what we've seen is the concern shift to the idea that, hang on, AI is actually working and it might work really well. What we're seeing now is investors get concerned that people will be able to use AI models and the coding assistance that's now within them and create their own software. The concern was heightened when Anthropic released a bit of legal software, and they've since released a bit of cloud computing security software. And so investors immediately extrapolate, well, hang on, if AI models can release this software themselves, then what's that going to do to the businesses of these huge software giants that have been sitting on very inflated valuations for a very long time?
The streets are bloody, man. The SaaSpocalypse continues.
Everyone's throwing around the term SaaSpocalypse.
Happy SaaSpocalypse 2026.
We are in the SaaSpocalypse.
So yeah, what we're seeing, I guess, is this concern come from two ways. One, the software giants are no longer as impregnable as they once were. And we're seeing it sort of come from the ground up too. Investors are out there making up their own apps and websites using these tools, and they're thinking, hang on, if someone like me with no coding experience can do this, what's going to happen when you put these tools in the hands of some pretty smart people? Are they just going to wipe out these existing software businesses? So I think what we're now seeing is the market splitting into two camps. There's some people who have decided, I don't want anything to do with software stocks. I just think their values are potentially going to zero. I don't know if it's going to happen this year, next year, or in 5 years' time, but I don't want to be anywhere near them. And then you do have this range of other investors who are looking at this big sell-off in software thinking, hang on, that might be overdone and this might be an opportunity. Once the smoke clears, some of these software stocks will start to rebound and I can make some big profits. We're seeing this in Australia. At the moment, we're in the middle of profit reporting season, and this is where companies go out and the CEOs and the CFOs go and talk to investors in private meetings. From what I'm hearing, those private meetings are being dominated by analysts and investors asking questions about what the CEOs and the CFOs think about the prospect for software disruption. Everybody's trying to wrap their head around this question.
So which companies were the most affected in the sell-off? And is the race now on to work out who are the winners and who are the losers?
Yeah, absolutely. So locally, the big software companies that have been really badly hit include WiseTech, which is a big software provider to the freight industry, Xero, which has a small business accounting software business. And then we've got some of the marketplace providers. So REA Group, which runs realestate.com.au, Car Group, which runs carsales.com.au, and Seek, which is, of course, the employment classifieds platform. They've all been heavily sold off on the idea that, these businesses will be disrupted by the wave of AI. Maybe not this year, maybe not this month, but in the next few years. So now we're starting to try and determine, which of these software companies might have had their shares oversold. And you talk to all those companies, they think this AI revolution is actually an opportunity for them because they can implement this AI technology and make their businesses even stronger.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, every CEO you hear at the moment in the software sector talking about this issue has got this attitude of, we get it. Software companies are going to die. AI is going to replace them, just not my software company. We're different.
It's happening, but not to me.
Exactly right, yes. And if you think about two of the biggest software companies that we always talk about here in Australia, you're looking at Atlassian and Canva. Canva make graphic design software and workplace productivity software, and Atlassian make team-based software for software developers, tracking their projects and things like that. And Atlassian has been hit harder than anyone else in the software sector globally. It's down 55% this year alone. That's more than half its value wiped out in just over 2 months. So its market cap has fallen to just over $18 billion US, which is a massive drop-off from its record high of $162 billion in 2021, which, to be fair, came when there was a broader tech bubble forming. And this week, its shares fell 9% in one day alone, when a report came out from a well-respected investment analysis firm called Citrini Research. Now, this research report was written from the pretense that they were sat in 2028 looking back at the carnage created by AI in 2026.
So they're looking back at what's happening right now.
Yes, and pretending that they're in the future and saying, oh my gosh, we didn't see all this coming. It's an example of what's called AI doomer porn, which is these reports that are coming out, becoming increasingly popular, where they paint a feasible picture of how AI could wreck everything if it continues the way it's going. And in this case, it was looking at software and talking about how customers would be able to use the threat of using AI rather than traditional software to drive down prices and causing this real death spiral for the software companies themselves. Atlassian in particular has failed to convince the market that its products will survive the AI revolution, but it's not for want of trying. Mike Cannon-Brookes, its chief executive, has been out and about talking about all the ways that his company is using AI, and he appeared on a popular podcast hosted by venture capitalist Harry Stebbings called 20VC early this month, and he was saying,
will every single software and SaaS company make it through the next 5 to 10 years? Absolutely not. Will a lot of them continue to grow and prosper through that 5 to 10 years? Absolutely.
These claims that software as a service is dead were ludicrous. He said,
apparently we're some sort of cavemen sitting around just banging on clicky-clacky keyboards and writing assembly code, and we haven't figured out that LLMs are pretty good at writing code and can speed us up.
And he's right. They are building lots of AI software themselves. They can make a very convincing argument, if you ever listen to him on an earnings call, about why AI is a real opportunity for them. But the markets aren't buying it yet. Early this month, we reported that Atlassian has got a hiring freeze on, particularly in software developers. And you think if they were having concerns about whether they need to be hiring more developers, then that's something worrying for their product as well. Canva also, we always look at them as, are they going to be the next IPO? Are they going to be the big IPO? They certainly need to go public. They've got lots of investors waiting. They were originally going to do it this year, according to lots of articles, including from us. Now it's likely to be later. And Mike Cannon-Brookes also said that he can't imagine that Cliff Obrecht from Canva wants to go public in the current market.
So it's messing with their listing plans.
Yeah, that's right. But also this week, they bought 2 more AI companies. It takes up to 5 that they've bought in the last couple of years. So they're really trying to position themselves as an AI company rather than a software company. You look at Adobe, they're struggling, they're their major rival. And so that's a question for investors down the track, I guess. I also had the chance to sit down with Chuck Robbins, who's the global CEO of Cisco. They were the picks and shovels infrastructure company of the dot-com boom. And he said that software companies that do just one thing are going to be in real trouble.
Okay.
If you're a software company that provides a single function, that's probably an area where you could leverage AI to create a custom version of that inside your corporation.
But some of these more established, bigger platform companies are actually got a bit more of a moat than people are giving them credit for at the moment.
If they are impacted at all, it's a long time. It's going to take a long time.
That's basically, how defensible they are. Chuck also bought into the whole idea about the jobs disruption.
I think that instead of having the debate over the job loss situation, I think we should prepare for the worst.
And when that doesn't happen, at least we've done some stuff to think about what we need to do as a society, and governments also.
If it doesn't happen, then that's great. If it does happen, we're prepared.
And one of the ASX's longest standing technology stocks, Tech One, is saying something similar.
So if AI agents don't kill the software directly, it kills the headcount that uses the software, which kills the per seat revenue model, which kills that software business.
Their chief executive, Ed Chung, was talking quite a lot about this at their earnings call.
If AI agents do the work of employees, you need fewer software seats.
I mean, all the world's AI leaders were in India this month as well for their AI summit, and the conversation obviously turned to jobs.
I'm not a jobs doomer in the sense that I don't think there will be jobs for people in the future. I think there will be a lot of jobs.
Sam Altman, like Dario Amodei, is trying to position himself as part of the solution rather than the problem.
As long as the country and the companies that do this adapt quickly to this new world, there will be plenty of new things to do.
And was talking in detail about what he thinks is going to happen to the employment market.
Every technological revolution has panicked about jobs going away, and every technological revolution has found new jobs on the other side.
Because there is going to be lots of disruption. It really is only being talked about on a very superficial level, certainly from a government perspective at the moment.
I think the problem is at the moment it's almost impossible to decide who the winners and losers are, partly because you're trying to decide, A, whose technology is best, and then B, what time frame could that technology be disrupted over. There's a great example that I heard recently. It took 8 years from the IPO of Netflix for Blockbuster Video to go bankrupt.
Okay.
So the process of disruption can be really slow. Maybe some of these software businesses have similarly got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years before they really get hurt. But maybe some of them don't. And I'm a bit like Paul. I get a little bit concerned about this sort of denial. Yes, AI is coming. Yes, it's amazing, but it's not going to hit us because we know how to adapt. The thing is, these guys have been disruptors themselves. The Atlassians of the world, the WiseTechs of the world, the Xeros of the world, they came along and disrupted the old school software businesses with their software as a service model. So they know that it's easier for the new player to do the disruption. If an Atlassian or a WiseTech or a Xero feel that they can do the job better with AI and they're going to, meet this AI challenge faster, sort of doesn't make sense, because why won't the nimble AI native startup just come and eat their lunch, offer lower prices, create a new level of competition? So this is really hard stuff to work out. And at the moment, what we've seen is investors have basically applied a 30% discount to every software company in the world. And in some cases, the discount's a lot bigger. I mean, Atlassian, it now trades at a lower level than it did 10 years ago. It's not a very happy picture. That's what the market's telling us. And I think the same thing's probably happening at Canva. If you just take a line through publicly traded comparisons like Adobe and another design company called Figma, the Canva valuation has to be 30% lower than it was a few months ago. It's just hard to defy that gravitational pull.
And Paul, at the same time as we have had all this action on the stock market, an essay written by an AI entrepreneur is capturing people's attention. It's gone viral, viewed by millions of people, I think more than 85 million people, and is once again putting the disruptive potential of AI in the spotlight. Why has this particular essay struck a chord?
Yeah, so the essay is called Something Big is Happening.
Mm-hmm.
And as you say, it's written by a guy called Matt Schumer, who actually owns an AI company called Other Side AI, which makes various things like a AI writing assistant, which I think helped him write this essay as well. Now, it's basically pitched as an article explaining just how much more capable AI software has become this year and what this could mean for everyone's jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's scared the pants off lots of people. So it's definitely created a moment out there. Really, it's not targeted at people like James and I, who are reading and writing about this stuff every day, but was a real eye-opener to the sort of majority of people out there who are aware of AI, maybe played around with it when ChatGPT first came off, have dabbled every now and then for work, think it's quite good, but haven't really seen the latest developments. And he's basically saying things have got very real, particularly for tech engineers. He likens this moment that we're in now to the February before COVID hit, and says basically there were people back then who said this is going to be huge, and lots of people saying yeah, and maybe not, because it was overseas and they couldn't see it immediately affecting them. Obviously then their kids were home from school a few weeks later and they couldn't go into the office. Schumer was saying that people should be feeling the same way about AI now. His premise is that the latest versions of OpenAI's Codex and Opus from Anthropic were the real game changers. They're their coding models, and that he personally is no longer needed for most of the technical parts of his job. He doesn't need to know how to code anymore. He just says, I would like this app, and he goes away, and it's good enough to come back and iterate on the project, work out what's right, what's wrong, launch the app, and it's just as sophisticated as humans with much more speed.
James, what did you think? Because it is self-serving. It's in his interest to talk up the power of AI tools, but I think what was interesting is how much it resonated.
Yeah, it's emotive. It is AI written clearly in parts of it, and Schumer's admitted that. And look, it is very light on data. It's a whole stack of feel opinions, as we call it. But for all of that, I think the reason it resonates is because people are seeing this start to infect their own lives, and they read something like this and they think, okay, maybe it's over-exaggerated, but what if it's right? What if we do see large job losses in the economy? What if my job is changed dramatically, or the job of someone in my family is changed dramatically by AI? And some of the stuff in this essay is interesting because it's quite practical. One thing Schumer says, which I don't think is a bad point, he says this might be the most important year of your working career because you'll either figure out how to use these AI tools or you'll be left behind. Again, maybe it's a bit black and white, but there's something in that feels sort of the moment. There's some pretty doomsday-ish advice on your financial circumstances, basically saying this is the moment to get your finances in order because you don't know what's going to happen in the next 3 years. This would not be a good time to be caught with a lot of personal debt. That prediction might be totally wrong, but I think people are thinking about it, thinking, well, what if it's right? There's another essay out in the last few weeks by a guy called Andrew Yang. He was talked about as a Democrat presidential nominee at one stage. He's now an investor and entrepreneur. His essay was called The Death of the Office, and basically made the argument that in 12 to 18 months, most of these office-based, desk-based jobs will be gone. Again, not any data to back that up. Very generalised statements. Probably the timeline's wrong. But these predictions are everywhere at the moment, and so there has definitely been a shift in the way people are thinking about AI. And for me, it all comes back to that question. What if these predictions are right?
We're talking about the sell-off in software companies this year as investors bet new, improved AI tools could replace those businesses. James, even if you don't go to the worst-case scenario that AI is going to wipe out entire industries or workforces, is there now a reckoning in terms of how AI will disrupt business models?
Yes, there is, because it's happening. We are seeing these AI experiments across the economy. Even in Australia, where we're not at the coalface like they are in the US, it is absolutely everywhere. It's the middle of February reporting season at the moment, and there would be a handful of companies that haven't mentioned AI in their presentations. Most have given very detailed examples of where they're using AI and what sort of productivity benefits they're getting. So this isn't like something off in the distance. This is actually happening right now. If you take the example of Claude's legal tool, will law firms suddenly be forced to rethink the way they charge fees? I mean, they've always done billable hours. Do they sort of scrap that now? More generally, will clients continue to pay $1,500 an hour to sit down with a lawyer? Or will they just let AI sort through their contracts, at least for those simpler legal questions? There's lots of questions around that. Can you trust the AI to get everything right in a legal situation where there's real money on the line and lots of emotional investment? Maybe not, but maybe you can get the first 3 discussions you would usually have with a lawyer are now taken care of by AI. Companies will start to think about, okay, we pay this huge amount of money for a piece of software. Could we turn our own developers onto building a version of that for ourselves? I've asked some of the CEOs, could you knock up your own version of a accounting software platform? And the answer is, well, yeah, we could, but at the moment we're not thinking about that. That's very low on our list of priorities. And by the way, we actually like the level of service and maintenance and reliability we get. We're not sure we want to give that up at the moment, but that's at the moment. Will they change their tune in 12 to 18 months? Quite possibly, and I think that's the thing that people are really wrestling with.
One crucial thing that you remember, when a big company buys software, they also want the security and the insurance of the fact that this big software company with responsibility to its own shareholders is saying, yeah, we stand behind this software. It's not just some guy, Colin, that's built something for you over the weekend. This is a big multi-billion-dollar software company. If you have a big outage or your customers are jumping up and down because of something that's going on with your technology, you can say, geez, we're sorry, but look, it was those guys over there. So there's a big role, not just from the building software,
but the upkeep.
And the governance.
And the management.
Yeah, who's to blame if your vibe-coded software is riddled with cybersecurity holes and all our data gets stolen. So, I mean, it's not as close as maybe we're thinking. I'm not saying that terminal valuations of companies shouldn't be assessed, but we can't be sure how much it will change. We know it's changing and markets are reflecting that, but it maybe won't be as quick as this current sell-off is suggesting.
Paul, we've talked about the essay written by Matt Schumer, and James mentioned another essay written by Andrew Yang. And these seem to focus people's attention once again on the potential for disruption from AI. But arguably, a more significant essay was written by the CEO and founder of Anthropic, Dario Amodei. What's he worried about?
One of the things it's shown as well is that AI is giving CEOs time to write big, long essays.
Yes, that's right.
Because I don't know how you write that and run a company that's grown as fast as Anthropic, but he's done it.
He's managed it.
And Amodei is generally seen in tech circles as the kind of the moral compass amongst these big AI platforms. He used to work with Sam Altman at OpenAI, and he and his sister Daniela quit OpenAI. And it's always written about the fact that they did so because they were concerned that safety and guardrails weren't a high enough concern. Amodei had written an essay in 2024 called Machines of Loving Grace, which was about how AI is going to transform the world for the better. And he followed that one up in January of this year called The Adolescence of Technology. And it was about confronting the risks of powerful AI. And it was really quite raw and honest about all the terrible things that he is building, but that he's very worried about. He's kind of getting it on record now that I was worried about this and I did warn you about it. And it was about what could happen if AI development continues the way it's going, and making the point that we're not really thinking enough about it as a societal level, about what we do when maybe the people don't have enough jobs. I mean, the worst examples in there were things like anyone having the power and knowledge at their fingertips to create dirty bombs and mass terrorist attacks. And he's also talks about the sort of jobs apocalypse, saying that we need to sort of get honest about the fact that AI can do a lot more of these jobs that white-collar people are doing. He predicted 50% of entry-level white-collar jobs are going to be disrupted within 5 years, and probably much sooner, and that large enterprise risk being displaced by much less labour-intensive startups. And this all leads to the world's wealth being dramatically concentrated in Silicon Valley. And his point from his own perspective and the other rich Silicon Valley residents is that they've got to be part of the solution before the hordes are at the gates. So we need to start talking about this in a more sophisticated way.
And James, this is a warning coming from one of the arguably two most important CEOs in AI at the moment.
Yeah, to me, this has always come back to money. The biggest expense in most corporations is wages. So the promise of AI is that it can reduce expenses and make companies more profitable. And to do that, it needs to reduce vast numbers of staff from most businesses. I think that's the business case for AI, and I think that's the path we're on. We're already seeing some impacts in the US on graduate level jobs. There's some talk that it's starting to wash through white-collar workforces. Certainly in some sectors like software engineering, it's already having a big impact. And again, it comes back to this idea that we're not seeing many, if any, central banks or politicians say, what if the predictions are right? What if the worst-case scenario comes true? How will we as a society deal with employment, I don't know, not just at 10%, but at 30%? It's not a comfortable conversation for a politician to have, clearly, but I don't think we're even starting to have it.
So a final question for both of you. Some skeptics argue that the big players in AI are making these dramatic predictions to attract attention and focus people on their AI products, when in fact we're some way off from the all-pervasive disruption they're talking about. Has there been an overreaction this year to the capabilities of the latest AI models?
Yes, there has been an overreaction, but I don't think that the overreaction is something we should laugh at and say, well, investors just don't know what they're talking about, because we're genuinely at that moment where reality is starting to kick in, and we do need to start having these serious conversations about, what happens when jobs are taken away. We're starting to see it's the lower level jobs that are being taken. The AI, as it's being built at the moment, benefits the people that are already successful, the CEOs that are going to look much more efficient. You look in other industries, like the entertainment industries, the actors that are already successful and can build AI clones of themselves to keep working years after they would have in the past, or the families of dead actors who can clone their dead relatives and take the jobs away from the new actors. The next generation of workers are having the ladder kicked out from underneath them. And we really need to start having the conversation about how we sort of build some steps so that they can join in.
I think if there's been an overreaction, it's been a healthy one. Maybe some individual software companies' share prices have been beaten up too much. Maybe there's been a bit too much concern in equity markets or credit markets or wherever about the size of the software sell-off. But I think we need to realise that this is happening. It's here. Not only are we seeing ASX companies and companies around the world not just experiment with AI, but use it, but we're also seeing people like our producer Mandy sit down at their computer on a weekend and come up with an app that they would have thought was beyond their capability and beyond the technology sitting on their home computer probably 8 weeks ago. Now, I don't know too many other technologies that change so quickly in the space of 8 weeks. It's not too bad that that's a bit of a wake-up call for the world. So financial markets are having a crack at estimating these changes, but I can't see any of that conversation being had inside central banks or inside big political forums around the world. It's just not there. In the next 12 to 18 months, people in Australia will buy a business loan or a home loan that is entirely handled by an AI agent. They will talk to an AI agent in a call centre and not have any dealings with a human. They might not even know that that's happening, but it will be occurring. They might start to see them or their friends have their jobs changed, supplemented, possibly even eliminated by the use of AI. So this is here. This is moving a lot quicker than we thought. So many investors, they thought AI disruption was a story for 2027 and 2028, and all of a sudden it is a story for February 2026. The change is here, it is happening, and it will overrun us if we're not ready for it.
Thanks, James. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks for having us, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you for listening to The Fin. I'm Lisa Murray, with technology editor Paul Smith and Chanticleer columnist James Thomson joining the podcast today. Make sure you tune in to hear more of James on the Chanticleer podcast, which comes out every Friday. The Fin is produced by Mandy Coulin. Head of audio is Alex Gow. Fiona Buffini is head of premium content, and our theme is by Alex Gow. If you enjoyed this episode, send it to a friend, as it helps others find us. And follow us wherever you get your podcasts. For more stories about markets, business and power, subscribe to the Financial Review at afr.com/subscribe. See you next week.
The Australian Financial Review.